of here, I said, my voice cold and final. I continued, my voice trembling with rage. My marriage, my trust, my faith in you, all of it, gone. Do you even understand the damage you've caused? He took a step forward, his expression softening. Thabo, I am truly sorry. I will step down from the church, resign immediately. I will make amends. Amends? I laughed bitterly. You think resigning is enough? That walking away will fix this? I shook my head, my anger mixing with the deep ache in my chest. You've destroyed lives, Mkize. Mine, Leratos, even your own. He looked down, his shoulders sagging under the weight of his guilt, or at least the weight he wanted me to see. For a moment I wondered if he truly felt remorse, or if this was just another performance, like the sermons he delivered every Sunday. I'll leave, he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. I'll go now and stay away, but please, believe me when I say I am sorry. I stared at him, searching his face for sincerity, but all I saw was a man who had taken everything from me. Get out of here, I said, my voice cold and final. I don't want to see you again. Ever. He nodded, turning and walking back toward the hall. I watched him disappear through the doors, and for a moment I felt a flicker of satisfaction. But it was fleeting. His departure wouldn't erase what had happened. It wouldn't fix the broken pieces of my life. I leaned against the railing again, the night suddenly feeling heavier. The pastor was gone, but his betrayal lingered, a shadow that would take much longer to fade. I returned to the reception hall, feeling like a hollowed-out version of myself. The once lively atmosphere was now tense, charged with the weight of everything that had unfolded. Guests whispered in tight circles, throwing quick glances my way as I walked past. I ignored them, my only focus on getting through the night without falling apart. Namsa intercepted me near the bar. Her eyes were sharp, cutting through the chaos with their relentless demand for answers. What did the pastor say? She asked, her voice low but firm. Nothing worth hearing, I replied, pouring myself a drink. I didn't care that I wasn't supposed to. I needed something to numb the edges of my anger. The burn of the whiskey was a welcome distraction. She crossed her arms, her gaze unwavering. So what's next? Are you just going to let him walk away? I took a deep breath, letting the glass dangle loosely in my hand. He's gone, Namsa. I told him to leave. That's all I can do. Her jaw tightened. And Lerato? What about her? At the mention of her name, a fresh wave of pain washed over me. I glanced toward the far corner of the room, where she stood surrounded by her family. Her mother was dabbing at her tears with a tissue, while her father looked visibly shaken, speaking to her in hushed tones. She looked small, defeated, like a child who had been caught doing something unforgivable. I don't know, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. I don't know if I can ever look at her the same way again. Namsa reached out, placing a hand on my arm. Her voice softened. Thabo, this is your life. Don't let anyone pressure you into forgiving something you're not ready to forgive. I nodded, but her words didn't ease the storm inside me. How could I move forward when the very foundation of my marriage had crumbled before it even began? As the night wore on, the reception thinned out. Guests left quietly, avoiding goodbyes, their curiosity now replaced by discomfort. My family remained, their presence a mix of support and awkward tension. Lerato's family lingered too, clearly unsure how to handle the fallout. Eventually, Lerato approached me. Her steps were hesitant, her hands clasped in front of her like she was bracing herself for the worst. Thabo, she began, her voice trembling. Please, can we go somewhere to talk? Just the two of us. I stared at her, the woman I had once loved so fiercely, now a stranger I barely recognized. The urge to lash out, to make her feel even a fraction of the pain she'd caused me, was overwhelming. But beneath the anger was a deep, aching sadness. She had already hurt me more than words ever could. Not tonight, I said finally, my voice cold. I can't do this right now. Her eyes filled with tears, but she nodded, her shoulders slumping in defeat. She turned and walked away, her figure disappearing into the shadows of the now empty hall. As I stood there, the silence around me deafening, one thing became clear. Nothing would ever be the same again. The fallout of their betrayal wasn't just about broken trust. It was about rebuilding my life from the ashes of what I thought it would be.
The next morning, the remnants of the reception were still visible in the now empty hall. Crumpled napkins, wilting flowers, and overturned chairs painted a picture of a celebration gone horribly wrong. I sat at the edge of one of the tables, staring into the cold coffee in my hands, replaying the events of the night over and over. Every glance, every whisper, every betrayed look, it all felt like a never-ending nightmare. I hadn't slept. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them, Lorado and Pastor Mckize in that bathroom, their guilt written all over their faces. My heart ached, not just from the betrayal, but from the weight of what came next. What was I supposed to do? Could I move on from this? Did I even want to? The sound of footsteps pulled me from my thoughts. I looked up to see my father approaching, his expression grim. He was still dressed in the suit he'd worn the night before, though it was wrinkled now, as if he hadn't slept either. "Thabo," he said, pulling out a chair across from me. His tone was softer than I expected, almost hesitant. "We need to talk." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. He sat down, folding his hands on the table and looking at me like he was trying to figure out where to start. "I'm not going to pretend I understand what you're going through," he said finally. "What happened last night was unforgivable. But you need to decide what happens next." I scoffed, taking a sip of the bitter coffee. "What happens next? How do I decide that when everything I thought I knew has been destroyed?" My father leaned forward, his eyes piercing. "That's exactly why you need to decide. You can't sit here forever, drowning in anger and heartbreak. You have two options. You either forgive her and try to rebuild, or you walk away and start over." His words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Forgive her? The idea felt impossible, even laughable. But starting over, that felt just as daunting. I ran a hand through my hair, frustration bubbling to the surface. "She betrayed me, Papa," I said, my voice shaking. "On our wedding day. How am I supposed to forgive that?" "You're not," he replied simply. "Not right away, at least. Forgiveness isn't something you do for them, it's something you do for yourself. But if you can't see a future with her, you need to let her go. Don't drag this out, Thabo. It'll only make it worse." I stared at him, the weight of his words sinking in. He was right, as much as I hated to admit it. Holding on to the anger, the betrayal, would only poison me further. But letting go, whether that meant forgiving Lorado or walking away, felt like tearing out a piece of myself. Before I could respond, the sound of soft footsteps reached us. I turned to see Lorado standing at the entrance of the hall, her eyes puffy and red from crying. She hesitated, clutching the doorframe like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "Thabo," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can we talk now?" I looked at her, the woman I had once believed was my forever. Her pain was evident, but so was mine. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about what she had done. It was about whether I could live with the weight of it, or if it was time to let go. I stood slowly, setting my coffee down on the table. "Fine," I said, my voice cold but steady. "Let's talk." Her shoulders sagged in relief as she stepped forward. But I didn't feel relief. All I felt was the heavy weight of a choice I wasn't ready to make. With music and laughter the night before now felt like a mausoleum of shattered dreams. Lorado fidgeted with her hands, twisting her wedding band nervously. I sat rigid, my arms crossed, watching her, waiting for her to speak. The silence between us stretched, thick and suffocating. "Thabo," she began softly, her voice trembling. "I don't know where to start." "Start with the truth," I interrupted, my tone sharp. "No excuses, no justifications, just tell me why." Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't flinch. I had no more patience for her tears. She took a deep breath, and for the first time since the incident, she looked me in the eye. "I was scared," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know it sounds stupid, but I was overwhelmed. The wedding, the expectations, everything. And then, Pastor Mckize, he was there." I slammed my hand on the table, the sound echoing through the empty hall. "Don't you dare blame this on him alone," I snapped. "You made a choice, Lorado. You chose to betray me, on our wedding day no less." She recoiled as though I had struck her, her tears spilling freely now. "I know," she sobbed. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I destroyed everything. But I swear, Thabo, I never meant for this to happen." I laughed bitterly, the sound harsh even to my own ears. "You didn't mean for it to happen? That's your excuse? You had every chance to stop it, Lorado. You didn't." She buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with sobs. For a moment, I felt a flicker of pity, but it was quickly drowned by the rage and betrayal coursing through me. "I gave you everything," I said, my voice low but trembling with emotion. "My love, my trust, my future. And you threw it away. For what? A fleeting moment with him?" She looked up, her face streaked with tears. "Thabo, I love you," she said desperately. "I made a mistake, but I love you. Please, please don't give up on us." Her words hung in the air, and for the first time I let myself think about what came next. Could I forgive her? Could I live with the memory of what she had done? Or was it time to walk away and start over? I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my decision pressing down on me. "Lorado," I said, my voice steady but cold, "you broke something that can't be fixed. Maybe one day I'll forgive you, but not today. And not like this." Her face crumpled, and she reached out as if to touch me, but I stepped back, the distance between us symbolic of the chasm her betrayal had created. "I can't do this anymore," I continued, my words final. "I deserve better than this. I deserve better than you." With that, I turned and walked away, leaving her sobbing in the empty hall. Each step I took felt heavier than the last, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. For the first time that day, I felt a sense of clarity. The pain was still there, raw and unrelenting, but I knew I had made the right choice. The life I had envisioned with Lorado was gone, but I still had a chance to rebuild. On my own terms. And as I stepped into the sunlight, I felt the faintest flicker of hope. A painful but necessary reminder that even in the darkest moments, there's always a way forward. As the days turned into weeks, the initial sting of betrayal began to dull, though the scars remained. I spent those early days in silence, isolating myself from everyone, even Namsa, who had always been my rock. I wasn't just mourning the relationship I'd lost. I was mourning the man I thought I was, the man who believed in love so fiercely he didn't see the cracks forming beneath him. Lorado reached out constantly. Calls, texts, even showing up unannounced at my new place, always with the same plea. "Let me explain. Let me make this right." But every time I looked into her eyes, I saw the woman who had shattered me. I couldn't listen. Not yet. Months passed before I felt strong enough to confront her one last time. Not to reconcile, I knew that was impossible, but to lay everything to rest. We met in a quiet park, far from the noise of the city, where the only witnesses were the rustling trees and the distant hum of traffic. She looked different, worn down by guilt and sadness. "Thabo," she began, her voice softer than I remembered. "Thank you for meeting me. I know I don't deserve it." I nodded but stayed silent. I needed her to talk first. "I've thought about what I did every day since that night," she said, her voice trembling. "There's no excuse. I was selfish, and I hurt you in ways I can't even begin to understand. But I need you to know, it wasn't about you. It was about me, my fears, my flaws. You didn't deserve any of it." For the first time, her words felt genuine. Not rehearsed, not manipulative, just honest. I didn't know if it made things better or worse, but I appreciated the truth. "I'm not here to ask for forgiveness," she continued. "I don't expect it. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Thabo, I've spent months trying to find the words to tell you this," Lorado said, her voice trembling as she clutched her hands together. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to understand why it happened." I stared at her, my chest tight with the weight of her words, waiting for her to continue. "I loved you, Thabo. I still do," she began, her voice cracking. "But when you insisted that we wait until marriage for intimacy, I started feeling rejected, like maybe you weren't as drawn to me as I was to you. I respected your beliefs, I really did. But it left me with this void I didn't know how to fill." Her gaze dropped to her lap as her fingers twisted nervously. "One night, when you were busy with work, I went to see Pastor Makiza. I didn't know who else to talk to about it. I thought he could help me, guide me, but instead he used that moment to take advantage of me." I clenched my fists, the anger rising like bile in my throat. "Go on," I said, my voice low and steady, though it took every ounce of control not to explode. "He told me it was natural to feel the way I did," she whispered. "He said I needed release, that I deserved to feel wanted. And that night, I let him, Her voice broke and she paused, forcing herself to continue. "He made me feel desired in a way I'd been craving for so long. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did." I tightened my jaw, staring at her, the betrayal cutting deeper with every word. It didn't stop there, she admitted, her voice shaking. Afterward, he threatened me. He said if I told anyone, he'd twist the story and make it look like I was the one who seduced him. At first I felt trapped, terrified, but then I started going back willingly. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. You're saying you wanted this? I spat, my voice rising. Her eyes filled with tears as she nodded slowly. I became attracted to him, Thabo. It wasn't just fear anymore. He made me feel things I was ashamed to feel. And we had it several times. Every time I hated myself more, but I couldn't stop. She buried her face in her hands, her sobs racking her body. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I betrayed you in every way possible, but I needed to tell you the truth. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a series of terrible choices, and I'll regret them for the rest of my life. I stared at her, my chest heaving, my mind racing with anger, pain, and disbelief. Her confession hung in the air, a weight so heavy I didn't know if I could bear it. She looked down, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. So this is goodbye? She whispered. Yes, I said, my voice steady. This is goodbye. As I walked away, I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. Sadness for what we could have been, but relief that I was finally letting go. It wasn't easy, and it wouldn't be for a long time, but for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. Life didn't change overnight, but it did change. I found new routines, new people, and eventually a new version of myself. One who was stronger, wiser, and more cautious with his heart. Months later, I found myself at a community event, volunteering to help rebuild homes in a nearby township. It was there I met Zama. She was nothing like Lorado, grounded, kind, and brimming with an optimism I hadn't felt in years. Our connection was slow, deliberate. I didn't rush into anything, and neither did she. But with every conversation, every shared laugh, I felt a piece of myself heal. Looking back now, I see that Lorado's betrayal didn't destroy me. It revealed truths I needed to face about love, trust, and the strength it takes to rebuild. It wasn't the ending I wanted, but it was the one I needed to grow. As Zama and I walked hand in hand one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky, I finally felt it. Peace. The kind that comes not from forgetting the past, but from accepting it, and choosing to move forward.